Hey, you have Patrick Findaro here with Visa Franchise. Today, I want to go through an alleged E2 Visa fraud that was for $30 million. They've had allegedly 120 victims from many different countries, including from Mexico. So today, I'm going to go through what this fraud was and some ways that you should further investigate businesses to as much as you can make sure that you are not victim of a fraud. So I want to get right into it. This business is called RhinoPro, and it was for two Mexican nationals that essentially were marketing what they said was a franchise system under Uberwurx. But when we reviewed this business back in 2018, it wasn't a franchise, it was a license model. So that's an initial red flag. If a business says that it's a franchise, but it's not actually a franchise, there's no franchise disclosure document, it's not registered in the proper states, that's a huge red flag. And there was another E2 visa scheme, again, targeting Mexican nationals that the perpetrators I think are still under arrest. And it was a similar situation, Las Quesadillas franchise, where it was being marketed as a franchise, and franchising is much more regulated in the United States than a typical licensing agreement. So big red flag. If something says it's a franchise, make sure that you get a franchise disclosure document. So you have Juan Carlos Martinez, 51 years old. He's the owner of Mobile Coatings Management, and he was a part owner, president of Uberwurx. They were doing business as RhinoPro, a spray-on truck bedliner and truck accessory company. And then his associate Karina Hernandez, 41 years old, was part of the Texas Franchise and Business Consulting Group. And I remember there would be events, and our clients would talk about seeing the consulting group, and RhinoPro came across our desk numerous times from immigration attorneys, migration agents, actual Visa franchise clients, as well as prospective Visa franchise clients. But essentially, what they did was with these 120 or so investors from 2017 all the way up until this year, they offered a guaranteed return on their investment. And they also said that you don't have to do anything and that they would manage the operations fully. And that wasn't what these E2 Visa investors put into their applications. So, big no no. If you tell the government you're doing something, you better do it. And I'd be really aware of guaranteed returns. I don't like guaranteed returns. It's something if Starbucks corporate or a public corporation's giving you a guarantee on your investment in the form of a bond. But for a small business investment to a small company, it's much better to just take that risk and really know what you're getting into instead of relying on some guarantee, some promise of future returns. Some of the reviews on Google too, dating 3+ years back, just scream fraud, and it's just sadly, um, I mean, in the description section, we'll add just a lot of these issues with being overcharged for services, not getting money back, the spot depositing money in the escrow account, inquire before risking your capital. And these comments are going back 3 years. So a simple Google search on either Texas Business, what's the name of the firm? Texas Franchise and Business Consulting would show you these reviews dating back 3+ years, as well as on RhinoPro Mobile Coatings Management. If you did your research, you can see that these businesses are not franchises and they were being oversold for their capacity, clearly. Um, these guys are in big trouble. As I mentioned, they're facing some pretty serious counts that could land them in prison for, if they're guilty, if they're convicted, of up to 20 years. Again, 120 different investors between January 2017 and December 2021 with a loss of more than $30 million. So again, we spoke to some of these investors at Visa Franchise. A few of our one of client in particular I know had invested in RhinoPro, had to keep injecting more capital. There was no guarantee repayment, and essentially he fell victim of a fraud. Sadly, we we got this the first time in 2018, and talking internally, I'm looking at an email trail. This has all the signs of a scam. One of our researchers said that they couldn't find any information online about the founder CEO, Juan Carlos Martinez, besides his LinkedIn profile. Nothing to be found on the management team anywhere. No testimonials of customers nor investors. And it's odd that they don't have reviews. That's not a good sign. It's also a vertically integrated company that is a licensing structure. This means that the parent company has all the incentives to charge high prices for the products that it sells to the licensees and investors. This is very similar in some pyramid schemes where they're just essentially making money from those further down the totem pole. And, the fact that they say they're a franchise, but they're not legally registered as a franchise, and they've said that they have over 30 units is quite odd. Um, and it really needs to be regulated. And in terms of just their presence online, they're solely targeting foreign nationals, no Americans, no businessmen or businesswomen that are already in the services industry, the truck bed lining industry. They were just going after foreign national investors. So we even had a promoter keep reaching out to us where it was a direct quote. I have also made this a very rich deal where you can make a lot of money. Give me a call and we can discuss. Rhino has more than 30 E2 approvals from 8 countries, L1 visa approval, and many EB5 submitted. I responded, thanks. We'll be in touch if we want more information on RhinoPro Mobile. We care much more about the financial stability and the return for the investor than the visa approval records. Of which he responds, that is kind of a weird response. If you don't care about visa approvals and only about financial stability, why be in immigration? RhinoPro is a 30-year-old company that is an industry leader, not a startup. Anyway, we have a few more projects as well. So this business, had fraud all over it. My regret is that we didn't report it to the appropriate agency when we started getting these red flags. I guess how I viewed it at the time, it's kind of like they could be a potential competitor of some of the franchisors that we have on the greater vetted biz and Visa franchise network. But at the end of the day, sadly, 120 investors with a cumulative investment of 100 cumulative investment of $30 million across these 120 investors pretty much lost a lot of their capital. They haven't disclosed yet the US government if they lost all their money, but you can only presume for the worst. So again, a few key lessons from this: do your due diligence, search on Google, find out the name of the principals, their prior history. Um, if it's being sold as a franchise, as RhinoPro is being sold as a franchise, then check and get the franchise disclosure document. If you do not get a franchise disclosure document, you should probably report that business to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, because the business is promoting itself as a franchise where it is not a franchise. And if you're paying a royalty, an initial fee to start, it's probably going to be in the box of a franchise and not necessarily in the box of a licensed business. Besides an immigration attorney, you really need to have a corporate attorney by your side doing this type of due diligence on your behalf and legal due diligence to pick up some of these issues, especially before you sign any documents. So yes, you need an immigration attorney if you're applying for the E2 visa, but you're also going to need a corporate and or franchise attorney depending on the business that you select. If it's a franchise, definitely go with a specialist that's a franchise attorney. Reviews online. The major agency that was selling these licenses had, as of 2018, 2019, a 1 out of 5 stars with multiple reviews. Pretty much everyone leaving a Google review was saying they felt victim of been scammed somehow through their escrow account or whatever. Spend your time, Google the people that you're working with, have the right advisor. You need an attorney. You should have two attorneys if you're applying for an E2 visa, an immigration attorney and then the corporate slash franchise attorney. Even with the prior representation, it falls on you as the investor to take the information required to make an informed decision before you send over $200,000. This is a real business investment. And sadly, a lot of these frauds, it's oftentimes a foreign national selling to another foreign national. We saw this a lot in South Florida with a trucking fraud where there were Argentinians selling 2 or 3 trucks that were not even working to other Argentinians. We've seen the same thing with alleged fraud in Texas with Mexicans selling an alleged franchise that's not actually a franchise. So it's not actually alleged. It's not a franchise, Las Quesadillas, to other Mexican nationals. And with RhinoPro, this lining business, there were a lot of Mexicans that invested in this E2 visa project. So have your guard up, especially if someone speaks the same language as you and has the same nationality, because your guard is probably going to be lowered naturally. And just be aware of that. There are some really important factors that you need to consider before investing in buying a business, starting your own business, starting a franchise. The US is a great market. There's a lot of potential to make money, have great quality of life, education for your kids. It's also a very competitive environment, and there are some bad actors that are looking to take advantage of foreign nationals. So, a lot of lessons learned from this type of business. And I do regret not reporting them to the FTC and the appropriate authorities earlier because it did look like a scam when we saw it. And again, we were reintroduced this opportunity through immigration attorneys. At least a couple immigration attorneys brought this deal to our attention, this prospective franchise opportunity. Foreign migration agents that were looking to promote this project. At least one Visa franchise client brought this to our attention. And then also some prospective clients that sadly had already gotten the E2 visa through a RhinoPro bed lining business, but the renewal was coming up and they were just sinking more capital into a failing project. So do your due diligence. Don't rush into anything, and be really comfortable about what you're getting into. And if someone guarantees you a return on your investment, that better be Starbucks, McDonald's, or Burger King, some large corporation, and not some individual that has a couple small businesses that might not even weather the next recession. So those are some items to look out for. I hope that we hear about. I hope we hear many less stories about these E2 visa frauds and victims. And let's learn from the lessons today so you can avoid the potential issues tomorrow. If you're looking for actual franchise opportunities, unvetted biz in the franchise directory, it's only franchises that have a franchise disclosure document. And as of this video, December 2021, there's about 1,800 franchise opportunities to explore, many of which are eligible for the E2 visa. So again, do your due diligence. And I'm very sorry to hear about the victims. And I hope that it can be resolved and have some closure for them. Thanks.